Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Great to have you on board. Today we're going to do something real easy on the trailer. Boat's out at the minute. I've got to do some maintenance on it, and I definitely need to get some new hubs on there. So we're going to do the hubs, we're going to do the bearings, we're going to do the nuts, we're going to do everything we need to do. Make sure this thing is schmick for the road so you can get back out there easy enough. And this is how we do it Aussie style. Let's go. Let's go through what we'll need. Here is the hub right here. Quite nice. It has been pre-ringed as well as I got it ordered, which is very nice. That's where the bearings get to go in when we put them in, and of course the seal then goes on the back like that. You will need a good grade marine grease, really available at a lot of places, so just get yourself a whole tube of it. You're going to need it. I've got 4 hubs, so therefore I need quite a bit of it. Looking at, always try and replace good bearings with good nuts and washers, and these are little pins, split pins, but I decided to get some stainless steel ones because these ones actually, out of the standard kits, they unfortunately do rust, so these do not at all, and that's why I use those. You've got the cap on this side. There's all the bearings. You will need some long nose pliers, you will need to have some wire cutters, definitely a shifting spanner because you've got to tighten that nut eventually. Coming over here, I've improvised and I've taken this, which is a boat roller. That is to knock home with the hammer the seal at the end. It's just the right size, as you can see, for that, just the right size to get over. It's made of rubber, so I'm not going to damage the seal at all. And then just to knock it home, that is exactly the right size for me to put that in there. You'll notice that I do have lots of cloths because we're going to be using a lot of grease, and I do use a little bit of Johnson's baby powder inside the gloves because it's a long job. You're going to be sticky, so that keeps your hands dry, but it also gets the gloves on right to the end, so you can actually really work quite tight. So that's really cool. So there's what you need to start the job off. Let's get into it now, and I'll show you how to prepare everything. Okay, we're going to be setting up the bearings right now, and first things first, get a little bit of petrol inside a little cut-off bottle or something like that, as you can see what I've done over there. Okay, and just wash them off inside. They give them a little run around. It just takes off any chemicals, any factory chemicals or anything else inside the bearing, just to make sure that it's ready to take on grease. And then all you got to do is just leave it in the sun. I'll do the front bearing as well, and I'll just roll it around in there, just nice and easy. And I've got 2 hubs to do right now. I've already put 2 on, but I've got 2 more to do, so this is just great. And that's there. I'll keep that fuel for the next one as well. You don't need to put the seal in there. The seal's fine, and that's how you start it off. Make sure you do that because according to some of my professional friends, that's what you got to do to stop it from overheating. So hey, now that those have been in the sun for a while, you can see that they've gotten nice and loose and ready to go. So it's time now to get some grease onto them, and that I will do straight away quite easily. Grab the grease. It is a messy job, so be ready for it, and you stick it on that palm of your hand like that. Okay, and what this does is it allows you to pack the bearings when you put them onto it. So you'll see this side, there's 2 sides to that bearing. There's a bearing, part of the bearing that's very narrow on the top, and then there's that nice thick side, and that's got a little edge on it. And all you got to do is just work that in onto that grease like that, and you only finish when you see it bleeding out the back. You see how it's bleeding out the back of that, which means that all those bearings have now got grease in them. Turn it and continue, and just keep working it until it bleeds. See how it's bleeding out the back there? See how it starts bleeding out the back? That's what you're looking for. If you want to have a good job on that, then you really make sure it bleeds out the back. There you go. You see again, it's starting to bleed out the back. Alright, keep it going. You can see how that's coming out the back nicely. See how it comes out the back there? Okay, keep that going all the way around the bearing. Make sure you've got plenty of grease inside that bearing. A little bit of excess here, I just replace that. You can see that's a bit dry on that side there, so just keep working that little bits at a time, little bits at a time, little bits. See how it bleeds out the back now? Little bits at a time, little bits at a time. Let it bleed out the back. There you go. See, it's all full. Now that bearing is now nice and full. Any excess, all you do is you just make it nice and cover the whole bearing. Really make sure that is full now. You can see it's full of grease on either side, and that's very important. Okay, and now it's ready to go in. So here we go, placing the bearing in. Now you'll see the ring inside there. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on that just because we want to have just a little bit of nice slidage going in, and then that bearing sits beautifully inside that little area. Give it a little push down. All right, there you go, and that's looking ready to start preparing to put the seal on the back. This is where you're going to need the cloth, and get yourself a roll of cloth anyways for all jobs, but you'll see you have to clean your hands off to do some of the finer stuff, and that's why it's nice to have this. This is $1.50 in the store. It's not expensive and it's disposable, so yeah, definitely have it available. It's also nice because the new cloth doesn't have pieces of sand and grit inside it, so every time you get a piece of cloth, you're getting a nice clean piece of cloth, especially when you're working with bearings. That is important. I'll keep this cloth available now because I'm going to use it during the job for various different things. But next we have to put the bearing cover on. Now, very important, make sure there's no dust inside it. Just blow it out like I've just done there. Okay, and I just put that in. Okay, now you can see there's a bit of grease around there, so that's good. All right, that's going to allow some slidage, and I just put that in as even as I can and give it a little push down. And now I'm going to have to tap that slowly into and against that bearing. So let me do that. So I've got a smaller hammer to start, and all I do is I take that boat roller and I stick it to the back like that, and I'm just going to work it nice and easy, and I'm going to work it in as we go. Right, now that we've got that in there, we're just going to put it up on its back like that. Now you want this to be very even, so you've got to work at that and make sure that you get that right. Now you can see that I've got this boat roller thing, which is exactly the right size, and that's the reason why I chose it. It was just by chance. I was trying some innovation, I found it, and it actually works pretty well. So I want to make sure that that is evenly done all the way around, and just work it in so that it's going in nice and evenly. You see there's a high side over there, so I need to work on that high side. You see how that is just the right size, and I'm able to really get that into the little area just nicely. And now I'm just making sure that it's all even all the way around, and that it's back against the inside of the bearing, because that essentially is the seal. So you want to keep the oil inside, and if you do that properly, that oil will stay beautifully in there. Okay, you can see that now. It's beautiful, it's nice and even. Okay, there's a little bit of grease around which you can just work into that seal, which is fine, but I want to check to see that I've got this all nicely sealed, and it looks pretty good at the back there, because if there's any gaps in there, it's going to leak out. So you want to make sure that that is tight up against that bearing. I might give it a few more just to make sure, and then we're ready to assemble. Right, that looks fantastic, and it really is in place. So let's just clean things up there and we'll continue. Okay, back to the grease again, and now I want to prepare that area. I'm happy with that, and on the inside of the bearing I'm going to just cake up some grease, just as spare grease. When things get hot in there, the grease will obviously help in going and keeping the bearing safe. I want to keep enough grease inside there to ensure that we don't have any problems whatsoever. And that looks pretty good. So there is the back done. It's greased up, ready to go. The seal is on beautifully. Now we can do the front. So let's turn that over and get that done. Right, just cleaning off the hands again, and now that is looking really, really good. And we can now do the front. So I'm just going to flip that over. There's the front, all nice and shiny and new. Fantastic. And you can see that there is a ring inside there, and this is the bearing to go. So it's the same deal again. Grab some grease, put it on your hand. This front bearing is real easy to do. There's the bigger area, the bigger gap, smaller gap on this side, and all you do is you just go on there and you do it until it comes out the top, which it does pretty quickly. There it is, it's bleeding out the top nicely, and you just turn the bearing. This one really is an easy one to do. Yep, just keep on working it nicely. There you go, bleeds out the back, you see that? Just keep it going all the way. Let it bleed out the back, there we go. There we go, beautiful. Now I've got a lot of grease on my hands as well, so I'm going to use that to put around the bearing as much as possible. Let's really make sure that's nice and greased up and ready to perform for us on the road. Make sure that it's definitely good condition. Right, a little bit of grease on the inside of that, just to get some slidage. Okay, there's plenty of grease inside that. I like to just stick a little bit behind there as well, because again, if you just cake some in there, it's going to be to your benefit. When things get hot, that grease spins and spins around, but it moves into the bearings, and that's what you want it to do. You want to keep having that grease just recycling into those bearings. There it is. That goes in really nicely now. There you go. And we're ready to rock and roll and get it onto the trailer. So once again, just greasing off, and that was part one. Real easy, real simple. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the trailer and get that part down. I'm going to show you how to get this all the way home so that it's ready to go when you need it out there on the road when you're towing your boat. Right guys, so here we are. We've got the hub down by the side. Now you'll see I use a towel on the ground. These towels I have in my vehicle at all times, because sometimes on the side of the road you need to lie on hot asphalt. These are nice. I've got 3 of them in my car. They're great. They're grubby, but they're really good if I need to be sitting down. And also what that does is it helps you to keep the dust off the actual job. You don't want dust in your bearings. Now let's have a look at what we got here. Now I did put a packet over this to ensure that I didn't get too much, but you can see there's always little bits of grime and so on, so that needs a good clean first of all. There's lots of grime on there, very important. And there is a rubber seal behind. You want to just check that. That rubber seal comes with the trailer, does not come with your bearing kit, but these ones are still in good condition because recently I've actually put new ones on, and they're in good condition. And what that does is sit against the back of the actual bearing where the bearing seal is anyway, just to keep it comfortable for you and to make sure that it's tight and make sure there's no spillage going on or out of the bearings. Alright, here's the hub now, and it's going to just slide beautifully onto that. Now you just got to make sure that this bearing on this side doesn't come out, because you set it in there beautifully, and all you do is you just slide it beautifully on there, nice and easy, and you got to wiggle it on. There you go, there you go. And that's definitely in there, and it's turning. You know that. We know we've got enough grease in there. We know we're good. Okay. Now, always try and pack that up a little bit. So get a little bit of grease again, and just pack it in there, because you're going to need that extra grease. It also seals it off a little bit. It rust proofs everything before you put your washer on, and the washer's next. It's got to go over that, and it's just nice to have good grease set inside there. Taking that washer out, and I've always got an old blade lying around my car just to make sure we can open stuff, because if you try and do that with the gloves, you're going to obviously rip the gloves. You don't want to do that. There's your washer that comes with the nut, and all you got to do is place that now nicely into that there, and again just cover it nicely with a lot of grease, just to make sure that it's going to be nice and sealed and watertight. It also helps keep the rust out of the bearings as well, so that's also very good. Next up, we got our new nut over there. Now sometimes the newer nuts don't like to go on easily, as you can see there. Okay, but that's all right. We got our shifting spanner, and we're going to set it up. I've just set it up to the size of this now. Let's just make sure it's a nice size. There it is. And all I do is I just tighten that all the way down on top of the washer. Okay, just tighten it all the way down on top of the washer like this, so you get it nice all the way down, and tighten it as much as you can the first time around. Really give it a good tighten. There it is. Look, oh, make that, and you can actually hear at the back the pressure of the oil, the grease inside, actually starting to sort of tighten, which is what you want. So tighten it up really good. Once it's completely tightened, okay, and you know that that is now being all pressurized inside, loosen it up a little bit. Now I like to do a 3/4 turn. There's a reason for that. Sometimes in some videos I've shown you, you just do it hand tight. Unfortunately, some threads don't allow you to hand tighten it. So a 3/4 turn back, maybe a little bit more. There you go. And I just check to see that the hub's not wobbling at all. There you go, make sure it's not wobbling, and that it turns nicely. There you go, that feels pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to line it up for the pin and make sure that we get that to that stage where that pin will go in, which is just sitting just over here. We'll do that next. You can never do better than stainless steel. Stainless steel is very good, especially if you're using your boat in salt water. Now this pin I like to put in from the bottom. This may not be the way that most people do it. I've got to line it up and make sure that it goes beautifully. So I still need my shifting spanner just to tweak it a little bit to try and find that bottom hole. There it is. And a lot of people like to put it on top because the theory is it'll fall out the bottom. But if you do this properly and you manage to set these up nicely, it won't fall out. The nice thing about this is you can always get to it. It's always on top instead of being underneath and you have to get your head underneath there and see what's going on. You can see it on top. So let's get this done right now. And basically it's quite simple. You just get your long nose pliers and you grab the top of the pin and you just bend it away. So the top of the pin just bends away at 90 degrees like that. There it is. Okay, I'm going to knock that home. I'm actually going to flatten that onto that next. But this one here is always a little bit long for that little bit over there. So I'm going to use my side cutters and I'm going to just work this away and make it a bit shorter. Okay, now you know it can't drop out. You can see it can't drop out now. And I'm just going to make it, but you've got to be a little careful because you don't want to break the pin at all. I just want to trim it up. It takes a little bit of work and I'm just going to do that quickly. So coming from one side, coming from the other side and just work it, and coming from the same side again, just try and get that little top piece to break off. There you go, just got it off there now. So there, it just broke off nicely. Okay, it did take a bit of work, but anyways it does, but I haven't broken the pin. Now this is where you need your little small hammer, and I'm just going to use it just to bash back a little bit. I just use the pliers here against it so I don't damage anything over here, and I just flatten it down. Nicely, look at that, see? So that's now trapped that nut, and that nut's not going anywhere. And just to make sure it's nice and clean, I just put that down nicely like that, and that is never going to come, and also that nut is never going to come undone. Check it again, make sure that it's all good. That feels really nice and stunning actually. Good and loose. I can hear there's no grinding or anything. It's time to put this cap on right now. Now I'm a big fan of using the cap that I already had because I know it fits, so I'm going to use that. It will need a little bit of a cleanup, so I will clean it up. I do have the new ones, but I'll keep those as spares. These ones are really nice. I like these caps, and so therefore I'm going to use them and just make sure that everything's good. Now before I close this up, I do want to pack some grease over that nut, and I do want to make sure that it's nice and covered. It saves the pins, it saves everything. It just gives it that little bit of extra that it needs, so that, you know, if the bearing needs a bit of extra, it'll pull it in eventually with the oil. When it gets hot, obviously it becomes more malleable and it moves around inside, and it'll draw that into the bearing. So that's always nice to do. It also covers the nut nicely so you don't get rust on it. I then just pop that back on, and this is where I need to be a little bit careful. So I use my rubber mallet, and the big hammer behind that is just right as well, just to knock that home. You can see I'm really not wanting to use the rubber because I don't want to damage anything, and knock it home nicely and make sure it's done all the way. That's better, that's better, that's better. There you go, just nice so I don't damage anything. That looks like it's beautifully home right there, and all I do is I clean that up beautifully with the rag that I've used from the beginning. I use a rag per hub actually because they get so full of muck. But anyways, there it is, guys. Look at that. That is it, and it's working really nicely. There's no wobble in it, and that is how you get this job done. Well, there you go, guys. Quick and easy way to do your bearings. I hope this was useful to you. It's always useful having a couple of spare bearings in your car, and also an extra hub in your car if you do a lot of boating, but it's very manageable. You can save a lot of money not having to send it to the mechanics to go do for you, and there's a step-by-step for you. Guys, it's been great having you on board. I can't wait to see you back on the water again soon. There's some great fishing shows coming up. Hey, please subscribe, hit the buttons, like buttons, bell buttons, and please leave a comment. I will get back to you, and we will see you soon on the water. Lovely having you on board, and I hope this was helpful. See you soon. Goodbye.